So, so someone's hacked.
Testing, testing.
It disappeared somewhere.
Okay, we're unmuted.
Eddie just called me this morning. About 2 of them. It's good.
I have him.
Work.
I have him. I got Barbarino. I always get all the points. Outstanding.
Morning, everyone. Good morning.
Do you have your outfit for Saturday?
Okay.
Why?
So FYI, I have an elf costume.
I just bought one.
Well, you should see Austin. He looks amazing.
But you should just see
I look good.
that's the
Good
one that
size.
bro hit wore. I think I have that. It's like we gave him that one. So you guys, you should probably call me when you're doing advice.
Okay, I'm turning on this tape recorder as a backup. You're good. Start playing.
We were gonna have fun.
All right, we're ready. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Monday, December 5th, 2022 special meeting to order. So we have an agenda. Let's see. We need the first determine a quorum, which we do have a full quorum. Thank you, Kimberly. And we're missing Bob. Is he not on?
Bob is right here on my phone,
Okay.
so I'd like to make a motion to allow Bob Markleese to promote
Participate.
participate remotely. Push the other.
Promoted.
You're promoted, Bob Arena.
All those in favor? Motion passes. I need the second motion to adopt the agenda. We can't add anything, but we take stuff off if we need to. Anything?
I don't think so. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. First up. Okay. Consider, first item is discussion, consider advising county to foreclose on Huntley Drive. Christina.
No, you could still do this if you wanted to, if it makes you feel better.
Oh, I can't pass this. I was gonna pass it down, but I can't.
Austin, do you want me to let you
How
know
about we just do this to make
when we lose
this done?
and when we don't?
Pass it around.
Okay.
So this would be me. The Huntley Drive has been requested for us to take over. There's a property owner that's been communicating with us about this road for a couple of months now. It's in really bad disrepair. The property owner that currently owns the road lives in Naples, Florida, and has not paid taxes since 2011. So our initial stab at this was to go ahead and foreclose on the property. I think the taxes owed are about $7 or $8 a year, so it's not a whole lot of money. It's roughly $150. The cost of the foreclosure is going to be a couple of $1,000s, potentially up to about $5,000. There is a property owner that is in that neighborhood that's willing to pay for the foreclosure. So any cost that we get, that he's willing to pay for that back to us in a reimbursement. The attorney does have some concerns about foreclosing on a property that's the legal costs are going to exceed a lot more than the appraised value. Appraised value is about $1,000 right now. Yeah. The tax collector, I have communicated to him the concerns. He says it's not uncommon to see foreclosures cost more than the actual value of the property or the taxes owed. So it's not uncommon according to the tax collector. One of the things that we could try before we go through this process is to send a letter to the property owner and demand that he fixes it and see if he does anything, or offer him to turn it over to the village at a cost at the assessed value, or either he just turns it over to us and we fix that. So it's really up to you guys how you want to move forward. I would just make sure you know that you're setting precedent for other subdivisions to do the same thing if we do decide to take over this private road. none.
Any dialogue before we made a legitimate effort? Effort to try. I think that's the first step. Yeah.
Let me, yes, let me make one correction too. Said none. We haven't done any of that because we don't do tax collection anymore. We probably would have done it back when we were the tax collector and we were trying to get the money for the taxes that weren't paid. Yeah. So I don't know what the county has done. I assume they have just some kind of template and says, hey, here's your past due taxes. You haven't paid them. I have not asked that question to them. But I do know that the property owner has tried to reach out. The property owner that is interested in this has reached out to that individual. I think that they had some conversations prior to coming to us, and then they just kind of went silent from there. So I think he's been non-responsive as of here lately. We can send an email, or we can send a letter from the village demanding him to fix the road or to turn it over.
Hey, Bob, can you mute yourself?
We need to define what the fix. We can't say, it's my definition of fix, maybe. So,
That's the minimum standard.
but ultimately, that's not what.
I'm trying to think of all of them. And then also in that. Send the letter, you have a engineer or someone that says, here's what needs to be done. You know, well, we have, say, what,
So I guess the main concept, if we send a demand letter, is we get Chaplin to write it, and it would essentially say something to the effect of, there is a public health and safety concern because residents going down this, transversing down this road can't, go through it safely without damaging their cars or their vehicles. So he would kind of massage that and make it to where it sounds good, to where there is that level of standard, where the minimum standard is established. I guess the question lies, do you want to, we can do that, not a problem. That's super easy, but do you want to give him the option to turn it over to the village, or do you want to just leave it as negotiating with the property owners and turning it over to the HOA?
And then the one that has requested them, let's pay for it, then we go and we do a agreement, and maybe we're doing with James Holmes, and, maybe you. I don't know, like, I don't know how that would work, but I would feel like have to have some sort of legal agreement, not like, oh, we'll take it over, and then.
private here. What they want to do. My biggest concern is. So we run into this situation again. What is going to be the process? Letter, demand, go to foreclosure, but then do we take it over?
That's what I'm asking. I would say we would ask for them to turn it over to the village. Hey, get your taxes up to snuff, and then turn it over to the village.
As is.
Well, I guarantee they're not gonna pay for it, but, so yes, as is, and then the homeowner is willing to pay for getting it up to those standards, correct? If I'm not mistaken, is that correct?
So,
Christina?
that's concerned about that.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're doing something for, I mean, you
To know what the benefit to the village would be. So the
It would be-
alternative,
It would be getting another road into the system and getting it paved up to Marvin, the village standards.
if the property owner is willing to pay for 100%, I don't, if we maintain ownership. But we had conversations with that property owner, and he was willing to pay for it, but he wanted the ownership of the road.
You can have the ownership, okay, I don't care, but if we're gonna be involved in the process, like if we're gonna go the foreclosure route, if we're gonna have our attorney involved, then I want the road. Otherwise, he can figure it out.
Here's what I would suggest, and this is what we did at Firethorn before we were able to turn the roads over to the state. State said to us, you have to get them up to our standards, private road standards, gravel road, whatever that is. And then you can turn it over with the agreement that we take it over and, but we don't, are we going to pave it or are we gonna leave it gravel? Is the
I mean,
question.
the homeowner in question wants it paved.
there's no benefit to us to leave it brown. And I would check, if we intervene here and this homeowner takes it over, we're doing him a favor, and that's not our job, we can't do that. So the only recourse we have is take it over and maintain ownership of and maintenance of it in continuity with the rest of the roads in line. That's the only option we have, we can't go and do this on behalf of the homeowner. That can't happen, and this guy.
But I don't wanna take it
hasn't
over
paid his
gravel.
taxes in 11 years, he certainly isn't gonna put money in bringing it up to standard, so.
No, so I don't want it then.
Well, if that, we put it in the road system, we make it a road, and then that's the end.
Then we're gonna have to pay it, to pay for it.
Well,
Oh,
that's,
okay.
you know, but, I mean, then we don't pay it.
Is all the houses on that, are they in Marvin?
There's one large portion at the front that has a good amount of linear.
But, I mean, if you're gonna,
But the roads in Marvin?
Yes, you look at your, in the packet, there's a, let's say about one side of the road, not in one.
Half of one side of the actual road or half of the,
That's one side of the road.
we can't even take it over, because that was an unapproved Union County. I mean, right or not right?
You see where the little white squares?
sure,
I didn't take that.
go ahead, you keep, go ahead.
Okay, okay.
And actually, well, there are 3 parcels that are.
There is the option, we talked about this before, to do the sediment on the property where we would basically go to the property owner and they would come to us with a petition that says we're willing to pay for it. And it's all based off of the linear footage of the road, of the ownership. However, that first property that you see there that's not in Marvin, I don't know how we would legally do that because we don't have the ability to step. We may be able to work out something with the county where they can do it, but that's uncharted territory for me, so I'm not fully sure about that.
It seems to me the easiest thing to do is for the homeowner in question, get up with the land, whoever owns the street, and figure out how to make it happen.
So if you're interested in us doing a letter, from that.
No, because if they say, okay, you can have it, I don't want it unless it's paved, and I don't even know that we can take it.
Well, we could send a letter, Jeff would send a letter and that encourage them to either fix it and or get it up with the residents of the road. Or we
I don't know, I still think that that's utilizing village funds with the attorney for one person.
Right. And it is, that's, no, I feel it is, true fact, so.
Now, if we're willing to take it over and pave it, then we can do it.
We have to acquire that portion of it from unincorporated.
Well, also because the whole road is platted in Marvin. So even though it looks like half of it's not in there,
Just so the road is actually So we could, as a village, take over the road and make it.
Oh, is that on our list?
But,
It is, there's no dollar amount assigned to it.
but the question
Well,
is,
that would be helpful.
You can't put a dollar amount, he's not recommending anything, he wouldn't recommend anything, because it goes against our road acceptance.
Well, it'll be under 70, so we might as well throw it in there and let DOT take care of it.
problem is that, I'm having this is 3 of the 6 properties are not in.
Yes, that's,
Even if we took the road over, half the properties on that road are not Martin residents, so they're not Martin taxpayers. So much as I'd like to help this resident out, I can't see spending village funds for only half of the residents that are actually residents.
And one thing that we've done in the past, and this is for my time, I have to go back and look at it. We have done something to the effect of this money can change, when there are certain areas where they weren't in Marvin, and we set them at a different rate. That is something that's in our road acceptance policy, we can look into that,
But there again, what cases of very large community where there are
95% were in.
Yeah, the
Not
vast
50.
majority is within the village. This is 50%. This is a whole different equation, and this is,
I mean, if the homeowner wants to talk to his neighbors and try to get them to annex in,
that would be something that changed my mind somewhat, but 50% of the homeowners are not in Marvin, so that
but then we're
makes it
also,
difficult for me to justify spending money, Marvin money on a road. that half
So-
not.
just to put it out there, this is gonna come up and it's gonna be a thing. Because Robinwood has asked us to pay their road.
Well, but what's their situation? I mean, that's another object, that's another discussion we would have to have.
It's all Marvin.
We can't discuss on this meeting at this point.
No, but I'm just saying like that is,
Again, we go back to my view, we go back to if you're gonna pave it and you want to bring it up to say, okay, if you residents, because it was a private road, it was whatever it was, if you bought it as a private road in your deed, if you want to bring it up to Marvin standards, we will then take it over. So that means them coming and paving it themselves because it had the opportunity back then, but they chose to choose private. And we can't be investing in neighborhoods when they signed the deed that was a private gravel road that was always meant to be that way. And we're not gonna take over a gravel road and upgrade it to paved. Why would, I'm concerned about what, again, precedent we set. And, you know, again, I'm all for taking over the roads, but we have to have a comparative apples to apples. Like if we're taking over, most of these roads are already paved. They just need to be brought up to standards. And we're doing that with the state right now. We're defining what that standard is going to be, 70%, 80%, and the takeover is, you know, what's going to be acceptable. But we're not even in the same ballpark. We're not apples and apples here. We're completely different because it's a gravel.
this,
So is there a consensus that y'all are interested in let that property annex in?
I mean, it's gonna have to be all 3 properties.
But again, if they want us to maintain it as a gravel road or maintain it as a
They want
paved
paved.
road.
They want
If they want to pave, they're gonna have to,
you have to make the first step, right?
I would think, I mean, if I'm just following the state's rules and stuff, trying to, I'm sure they've put a lot more thought in it than we have. And if they're telling a neighborhood, oh, we're not taking the roads over until you get them up to what a builder said that they would do, and then they officially did. We're going from gravel to paved, cost of that would be what we're putting ourselves on the hook.
We asked that question, it was what, 200,000? A mile? Yeah, that's right. 300,000 miles a quarter, but 75,000.
Well, I have a question. This road, is it the standard width, or is it, if it's a gravel road, sometimes they're a lot smaller?
Well, that's the other thing that we did, and I asked this question when AMT. That's one of the things they said was, yes, 75,000 for just pave it, but there are right-of-way concerns with concerns, creating concerns and such to bring it up to a base payment. So it could run 100 to 100,000 somewhere in there based on what preparations they would have to do. To pay it. That's what we're running on.
Yeah, and think of the neighborhoods when they purchased their road, their house. It came with what it came. It was either a paved road or it was owned by the, or eventually deeded to be sent over to the state, or it was a private road and was always meant to be that way. We are not in the business of upgrading a road from what all the neighborhoods bought. I'm okay with taking over roads as existing, but if you want it to get to a paved level, it's gonna, that's what you gotta present it to us as, not going from gravel, because in all fairness, what the city would, or the village would be doing is increasing the value of their properties on our, everybody else's taxpayer dollars and stuff, and I don't think that's right, so. Yeah, for me, I would like to see them come back with, seeing if they can, number one, talk to the original and see if we get up to speed. I know they want to upgrade that, but that upgrade is gonna involve those residents coming together, or maybe one of them or a few of them, and upgrading it to at least the paved, similar to what we would expect. And I'm sure we have what our expectation, we follow what the ordinance that Waxaw had or something like that, the road standards we use. I know, but they were, we sort of copied what Waxaw was doing, which is more than what the state would do.
For higher, our standards are higher than the state.
Yeah. And I'd even be comfortable with saying, hey, just bring it up to the state standards, and then we'll have it evaluated. If it hits a certain percentage, then you're.
And we don't do any hand-holding to get to the point of current owner and the HOA or the.
I mean, it's not, unfortunately, it's not our responsibility. Like, if it were a Marvin Road and we needed to talk to an adjacent landowner or something, then yeah, I can understand that, but this is, it's a private road, it's a private individual, it's not Marvin. And half of the residents aren't in Marvin. I mean, I'm happy, I'm happy to try to help, but like, I just don't know that us spending resources for one individual is.
I say at bare minimum, that we're going to help them with the chat, the letter. And say, that would be fair to what
I think that we could, put some,
I mean, maybe.
the free and I think in village of then justify
Yeah.
helping with or to
It-
get involved. With being half the road not in, not our residents, I wouldn't think that would be fair for our residents to pursue this.
So if we kind of compare this to Marvin properties that aren't maintained, say grass cutting and stuff, there's an ordinance for that. This technically is similar to that, where it's in Marvin, it's in the vicinity of Marvin, but it's some of it. Well, some of it, yeah, it is Marvin, but it's not being maintained properly.
Even that, would that be a code violation?
Yeah, that would, and it would go back on the homeowner or even the property owner.
That's my point.
Or what you do?
Well,
Then
then,
you can put lien on it or, and, well, technically, and I would have to run this by Hunter, but I
We're
would say that technically, we could sit and do the work and then that's our that property. Because we can do that with grass cutting and grass removal.
I think they're gonna love $100,000 bill.
That's what I'm saying, we do have some traction there because it's a part of the property and it's substandard to, part of the work. So that might be an goal.
That's what I'm wondering.
I don't know if we can do that. I definitely know that the cost of road repair is not in our fee schedule for those code enforcement violations, so I don't think you can, but I just have further to spend it, so.
That'd be something where it doesn't have to be smart standards that would be pirated. I didn't hear that.
Any of our, we've already talked about weekends and weeks.
Well, what would our recourse be if there is a substandard that is owned within our, and it's within, it's in market. It's not being taken care of, no different than trash laying around, or grass not kept, it's still within market. So is there anything in our covers that?
Not to my knowledge, because here's where I'm at, thinking is all about it. Any group that are.
Ready?
Constructed.
Standard on top of them being petitioned over and everything. So I don't see how we can potentially, now that we have this standard, go back and recourse to a road that's not to that standard because it was already a road established prior to our ordinance adoption. From a nuisance or code enforcement violation, so I'll have to check. I don't see.
It was gravel. Lack of maintenance. So, I mean, brought back to the standard that it was. Is there? Standard that it is in Marvin, it's Marvin property.
Whatever repair, it's just.
Well, that we need, like.
If they were to not mow their property, we could fine them for the violation on top of send somebody to go mow it and then bill them for the cost of the mow. My issue is I don't know if you could deem a violation for a road. Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of, that's the simplest way to put it, is deeming a violation for the condition of a road. Yeah, I mean, I can double check with you, but to my knowledge, I've never seen any municipality.
It is. It would help our residents that are on that road. It would help maintain that road, which is in Marvin.
They're also helping some of the, we're also helping the Joe's point, increase property values of people that work. I would have a problem with that.
Well, I'm
I've already-
talking,
I've already got a problem with taking care of a lot of people right now that aren't in Marvin, and I don't want to spend any more money with it. I appreciate this homeowners thing, but one, you're gonna set precedent, and we don't know where that precedent goes.
well, I'm not
'Cause it
talking
could-
about,
'cause it could be a large community, a large property, a large neighborhood, and they're gonna go, well, look what you did over here.
well, I'm talking about enforcing our ordinances.
No, I totally.
Just
I
from
totally
a
agree.
maintenance standpoint on the road, but that's,
To me, this is a completely totally a non-issue because you have people, what needs to happen, if I were him, and I were this property owner, I'd go to those other property owners and say, we need to annex into. Because that's step one.
right.
I don't even want Chapel to do anything, because we're having to pay Chapel to do something.
Right, I
That
got
has nothing to do with us.
Right.
So step one would be, property owner, you need to go get them into annexing, and then we can begin the conversation. We think we have a framework that can help you, but until then, can't help you. Because I'm not gonna improve their property off of my tax dollar.
Right, well, yeah,
They're not helping me.
I got you.
The other thing from a code enforcement standpoint, you have to take into consideration is that, which road are we talking about? Martin's Road. Huntley. When you get into the process of who the person is in violation of, and finding them and setting a lien for that, or like billing them for the cost, is there's really no legal standing, or like basically like we won't necessarily see that money immediately.
No.
Because it could be that we have to set a lien towards it, and and then the two options are is that either the property owner pays that lien or we would condemn it and then it would be our right of way and then still then we never maybe recoup that cost. Because that's like the same thing, like if you had a code enforcement violation for that grass and you build in, they never pay it, you set a lien to the property. Until they either sell the property and or have other tax issues, like you might not see that money for a couple years to come back. So that's my only concern, and especially with that hefty cost of bringing it up to standard, that would be a lot of our upfront that would be unknown, even if we handle it from code enforcement, that I don't know when, if the full amount would ever be recouped. But I can definitely look into it. I think it's kind of a stretch, but I could just be overlooking it.
Well, so say a scenario, they get everybody on that road being marked. Without going and actually taking the next step of actually putting money into that road, at least if we had some sort of nudge from a code enforcement situation saying, you know, all right, well, you're in violation and there's a fine for this. Would that be enough to push this homeowner to do something? Either turn it over to those people on that road or to the village or whatever to get it off his plate. And that's that. Right, but that's what I'm thinking is like, that's a possibility of an avenue to fix this. But to Jamie's point, until those other three people annex on that road and that is nothing but Marvin in there, we can't go forward with any further.
And again, think about this. Think about all the other private roads that are gravel. And so over time, people change and they want to get away from the gravel, want to keep their cars clean and all the different things that the gravel road versus the paved road ends up. We do something like this. Down the road, they're saying, okay, we're all in Marvin. You think of a couple of neighborhoods right away and says, you set precedent here and you came in and you brought it from a gravel road to a paved road. Now you can pave our roads, which again increases the property value on all of the taxpayer dollars. I say that we treat it like the state would treat it. If you're going to bring us something we can compare apples to apples and we can consider maintaining it going forward if it's something that is what we currently do. We don't currently maintain private roads in neighborhoods.
The thing about it is that I don't think this is going to be an issue here because I feel like that the people there will bring it up to standard and turn it over to us. That's not their problem. They don't want to have they don't have a problem with that. I think it's more or less getting it to that point. So like I say,
These people will bring it up to standard.
I know that one person has already said that they would pay it and pay for it. Okay, but so that's not going to be the issue. The issue is that where it's at right now, it can't get over that one hurdle. But again, to Jamie's point, if all three of them are in Marvin and they want to, and we could go down an avenue to help them get it, and then they pave it, then we could accept the road just like
And
it.
pave it to the standard of expanding it to where our engineers are saying, okay, this meets a Marvin Road standard with all those different things.
Just like the other road you're talking about, they bring it to standard, we'll take it over, we'll maintain it, but then they bring it to standard and then it's part of our road acceptance policy. It's written in black and white. So, but it's a matter of, we can't go down that road until everybody's in there.
Okay,
Literally.
so Christina's marching orders are tell the person that brought this to us that as much as we would love to help, we're spending taxpayer dollars on non-Marvin stuff.
50% of them.
And in order for us to do anything, the first steps have to be to get those three properties annexed in. And he can continue down the road trying to get it done himself, and that's totally fine. But for us,
Yeah.
that's the next step.
And if
And once that happens, then we can revisit it and see what we can do from there.
if he ends up getting it and brings it to standard and wants us to go through our road acceptance policy and we accept it, that's fine, because it is all, the road itself is all in. So if we could go that route, then that's fine. We already have that set up.
All right, thank you. more time than I expected on that. Next up, discuss and consider adoption of ordinance establishing special project fund for funds from the NC Office of State Budget and Management. Jill?
Yes, so you all should have this ordinance in your packet. Essentially, this is the grant money from the state. We're awarded 500,000, so just need you guys to adopt this ordinance to receive and accept those funds. They've been earmarked. The good news is, some of these funds will enable us to use them to pay for the park master consultant. There's like a master plan, which is good because originally we had that coming out of the park project budget item, which then kind of put us in a bind for paying for the speed bumps that you all had wanted and then the lighting of the park. So now being able to use these funds to pay consultants for the park plan, the master plan, it frees up those funds to be able to do the speed bumps.
All right, anybody have any questions for Jill on this? Oh, yeah.
Just so I'm clear, this 500,000 is separate from the 600,000.
This is
What are you
500
pointing
of the
at?
600.
What are you pointing at?
What David in the back.
No,
This is part of
Yeah, and we got 650.
650.
650, this is the one chunk of 500, and then we've got a separate chunk of 150 coming.
I just want to be clear.
And to reiterate what you just said, we originally budgeted 60,000, I don't know exactly, in our operating budget. There's line items for the master plan that we're doing. Instead of paying them those funds, we're going to pay them fees to spend it down faster, and that frees us to pay for other projects like speed bumps, like the lights.
This is a grant, it's not a loan or anything.
This is here you go.
Yeah, this is,
We love you,
I
Marvin.
just want to make sure this was, where these funds were dedicated to, right, and where they came from. Okay.
But it's the same 650 that
So the roughly 60,000 that we were going to spend on the Greenway master plan that was coming out of the line item is now going to come out of this money. Okay.
Where does that?
So it's
line
not,
item-
so it's not like, we're not like saving that money,
Okay, so we're gonna reallocate it.
but it's not like we have $60,000 we'll use that for.
We can reallocate it
Or just stay in there. Yeah.
But it's in his general operating budget.
Yeah. We can reallocate the rest of that.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion to adopt the ordinance establishing special project fund or funds, not funds, from the NC Office of State Budget and Management. Fund.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye. Bob was an aye. Thanks, Bob Reno.
The microphones are thing?
No. It's typo.
Okay.
It's the typo.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on. We have, discuss and consider approval of pavement condition index and acceptance of 2022, 20 through 2029 village. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I missed discussion of Powellville tractor. Sorry, my bad.
So this is gonna be really short. If you want to take it, grab. There's a little issue that just.
Seriously.
What? Aaron, you blowing your nose. Fair.
Kids over here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sherry.
I'm sorry. It's fair, that's absolutely 100% fair. Oh my God. Better than you know when your nose. True. Oh my God. Oh,
On the record.
I don't care. I think that's the worst thing that's ever been said or said about me or that I've said. You can't pause a live stream because it's live.
Okay.
No, so people can't see it.
You stand on the other side of it, Dylan, you won't be able to see it.
I think in these boxes eventually, and so they're only gonna be seeing me on screen from here up.
I mean, you're like that. Appropriate.
In a blanket.
Happy Monday, everybody.
Good morning, Barbara.
Hello.
Happy day. One moment, Bob. We're doing a little technical difficulties.
Managing.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Oh yeah, we got red numbers. Those are bad. Red's bad.
So we've got to go back and change those numbers. Any questions on that?
How, where are the red numbers at right now? Can you zoom back in real quick? What's that say?
Same red numbers that have been there every time we looked at it. You know?
I just don't remember how bad it was.
If you think we're big bottom, they start. That data.
Move up sooner, move up later.
But they're definitely to get a
Next year.
bill from the roundabout, because you know that's gonna be higher than anticipated.
Wait, when are you gonna have this to us? That's it, retreat. Not the retreat.
Next month.
Retreat.
Yeah, next month.
The budget retreat? It's a retreat. Oh, just for the year. retreat.
Budget's involved in it.
We always put the budget in the retreat. Hey, there's a,
So,
there is a
bus-
pond at the back of the
house
park,
is-
just
All right.
say it.
All right.
Was that literally the whole discussion? I can't see it. I don't know what it says.
That was my point. That's what I was saying.
We're going in the reds in 2 years, okay?
So we need more money?
Yes.
Okay.
Start passing them. We're gonna have to start passing the hat. Find
I
money.
pick the hat to pass.
We're ready. Yeah.
We'll do that. We can do the trail as we do at church. Right, John, just pass it down the line, put some.
Okay, so,
Work for that.
discuss and consider approval of pavement condition index and acceptance of 2022 to 2029 proposed roadway plan. Christina.
That's still not this, is it? But this is just the study.
Yeah.
And we're saying, yep, the study is right. We're not doing anything with it, but just saying it's right.
You're saying it's right.
Okay, where are those years?
Start.
2023, the ones that have asterisks.
Hang on, sorry, I was on the wrong one, hang on. Okay. And has this already been, agreed upon? Okay, thank you. Have these, has this already been agreed upon with, DOT?
Is this, has this already been negotiated with
What is,
contractor for this work, or is this just an estimate?
okay, tell me where Elmhurst and Glenwood is. Elmhurst, I do not know where Elmhurst is. It's the very first one on there. I know, I know the.
Remember
I know
being
where-
on Elmhurst.
Elmhurst,
I'm trying to think where that's.
is it in Oak Brook? Elm, Oak? It's gotta be a road we've already done because we're just crack sealing, fog sealing this.
Is that in, what's the,
It's called Elmhurst,
what's
Right.
the neighborhood?
Elmhurst Drive it's called.
The high school? What's in Barkwell? So it's the, is it the first cul-de-sac or the back cul-de-sac?
Is it the main drag?
So it's the
Which-
back, it's the back. Yeah, there's only two, it's the back one. Okay, okay.
How are we already doing that one? That's a brand new neighborhood.
It's maintenance.
Then the developer didn't, it's literally brand new.
I know, we had some issues with it that we made them fix
That's the rental.
when we,
Yep.
It's a rental.
when we took over, when we took on the road.
I mean, it's brand new. Have we already, we've released everything to that developer?
Yes.
What the
We did that
fuck?
like, what'd we do? 4 months ago, 3 months ago?
Can we get-
Cause I was working in Belgrove.
Hey, I know we got a box of highlighters around here. Where is it? Red highlighter. This is too far. I can't.
Then we didn't,
No, a Marvin one. Thank you.
when they didn't bring it up, then they,
So why would there be?
it sounds to me like they took it from construction, and construction up, except in the cul-de-sac.
So,
Which means our engineer missed it.
so Shannon and I drove that neighborhood and prior to us releasing the bond, we looked at that entire neighborhood and everything looked good. And there were only a couple small notes that we made and they fixed those. So why would this go down 20 points
Well,
in 3 months?
you have to remember, that is a new neighborhood in that back part of that cul-de-sac. That's all filled, that's filled, that's filled.
So you think it's the
That's it.
settling?
All right, which roundabout at Tom Short? And it's at an 88. There's no way that roundabout's an 88.
Oh, that's right. We don't have,
It's gonna cost $72,000.
And you gotta.
What?
Where Marvin Creek
There's
is.
no way. That can't be right.
You gotta remember too, remember how all that asphalt's rippled? I'll be it right there.
But $73,000
it's a crack seal and fog seal. That's not, I could see 73,000 to grind it and repave that section, but not crack seal. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying. When you come to that roundabout off of Tom Short on the right hand side there, that thing was fell apart numerous times and when the DOT had, they couldn't keep gravel.
Okay, but for $72,000, okay, so AMT said that they could pave a road for $300,000 a mile. So this should be a quarter of a mile paving for this amount of money, not crack seal for a little section of a roundabout. So that, I have a problem with that number, big time.
So the next question would be, what is the definition of crack seal and box seal?
It's whatever they just did on Greenway.
Right, that's,
Understand that.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. This should
Because
be,
it could be, the definition could be before we do the crack seal and box seal. We have to fix it to bring it up so then we can do it.
Okay,
It's. it depends
Well,
on what
I'd like
your
to-
definition of is.
right, well, I'd like to have a definition of the work that they're doing for that amount of money.
me too. Okay, so my next thing is, why are we crack sealing and fog sealing for stuff that's at a 96.7 on stuff we just repaved 3 years ago? We did.
Okay,
Here,
so,
here,
but those
here,
are,
here. These are all 96,
Okay.
97s.
Kim, these are very small numbers, is very nominal, but what that does is any cracks that may come up, if you crack seal them, then they will not deteriorate further.
No, but it's still at a 96.7.
I know, but that's a preservative measure to keep them from becoming an 80.
So, and yes, some of
Right,
these
that's
are
true.
small numbers, 3,700, 3,600, 1,700, 70,000. How is 70,000? That must be a long, oh, it's a cul-de-sac. So my thing is, those little numbers add up to $204,000. Do we need to do that right now?
What he's saying is, and I get into if there are small cracks that start happening, if they don't go ahead and start sealing those, get the moisture going, it's going to start. That's not sort of the road. That's,
It can't be that big of a crack at 96.7.
So, yeah, so Belmont Lane, yeah, I have to think about that one because it's a cul-de-sac. Right? It's not
I
big,
think
but 70,000 is a lot of money for
I
that.
think the appropriate measure would be to have AFT to come in and have answers to all of these, so we can ask them, because that's a legitimate question.
And I'm gonna need pictures.
Because-
I mean, I'm
because-
sorry, but like, unless we want to do a field trip and go out there and look at it.
Well, it still doesn't matter, we don't know paper, like they.
I know, but if there's a crack in it, you can show me all the
So
cracks.
to your point, why wouldn't we slide these over that are at 96.7 over to 2025?
Or 24, reevaluate them next year.
Well,
Listen, I understand that we have to preserve what we've paid so that we don't have to go in, rip it up and redo it like we did a couple years ago. I get that. Totally understand that. I'm on board with it. But some of these numbers, we've just done them. And
okay,
at 96.7, like there could be like a crack. And instead of doing it next year at $204,000, we do it the next year.
well, I'm good with doing,
Yeah, but that's in 25, 27,
Right.
29. I don't have any hundreds that are
and
in
let me ask you this, okay?
three.
I can wrap my head around crack ceiling if it's a 96.7, right? Because it's less than 100. But I have an issue with is any road that is 100, that should mean it's perfect.
Yeah.
So it should not require any maintenance money, and
There's
that's
no-
half this budget right here.
Yeah, but there's none that's in 25. Yeah. There's no
Okay.
100s that are in 2023.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Uh,
I'm still not okay at 26.7, spending 200.
I'll get it to you back after the presentation in January.
Who will come do that presentation?
Please.
I think the pictures are.
Right there with you.
And I would love a better explanation on Elmhurst and this Tom Short roundabout.
I'm gonna drive out there. I'm gonna drive by it.
I mean, all the 96.7s that they have on here.
I'm,
It sounds like you want, like, you know, figure of 300,000 per mile.
Uh-huh. that would be great to kind of get a perspective of cost, but this is what I'm saying, is like, if you can pave a quarter of a mile for 75,000, I don't understand how a cul-de-sac, 52-foot wide cul-de-sac is $73,000 for crack seal.
Just repaved, and it's a cul-de-sac, so it's not, it doesn't have that much ongoing traffic on it.
I mean, although there is twisting because.
No,
No.
the,
Yeah, Tom Shore and Elmhurst, well, both of them, actually.
stream
Yeah,
side.
Tom Shore,
Well, see, some-
72,000.
If it gets a lot of trucks and everything else that comes around, and that's the way they bring in trucks that come across, Jim Kerr. If they're going,
I understand, well, I know the roundabout, and that's what I'm saying, is like that small portion of it,
Cul-de-sac.
seems like it's a lot of money for just that one little section.
Yeah, because it's not even the whole round.
The numbers aren't making sense when you compare crack fog seal, which is a preventative thing versus repaved. It's paying.
Is this length in miles? So that roundabout is a half a mile. There's no way that our portion of that roundabout is a half a mile.
yeah, that's.
Well, that's why I.
52 feet wide, so that's 0.47, that's a half a mile. It can't be 0.47 feet. It's 0.47 something.
Dear good googly moogly of all things that are holy. Come on.
It says link.
I know length isn't what? Length isn't.
It's gotta be miles.
So one of the things on this chart, if we're looking at length, you go down to the bottom, that should tally up to 16 miles, whatever it is we own, correct? We don't have any totals there, right, Christina? So one of the things, so we're staying on point here, this doesn't total the 0.16 plus 0.15. We added it up, would that add up to 17 miles? I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and do the math right now. I'm sorry.
It's a mile.
That's the.
Damn, look at around it.
I'm talking a little bit about.
6.6.
I just ran a mile today.
Thank you,
Roofing.
Jill, for that. Okay. There's no way that then that we're paving that entire roundabout that's not ours.
I think they should.
Yeah, we're not necessarily in the road business, but we're in the,
I will.
does this
I will
make sense
spend a lot of
business?
money on the road business.
This is making sense business.
Well, we'll ask the.
Okay, sorry, Christina. I'm not gonna approve that. Okay.
All right. Discussion and consideration of state maintained pavement condition study and project scope of potential general obligation bonds to take over state maintained roadway system.
All right, is this the big one? Is this where we like strap in, put our helmets on and get ready?
Yeah.
We're only here to accept good news at this point.
I did hear back from Nikki and they are not willing to do anything other than by an annual basis. So they're not willing to say 70 and below or 50 and below will take care of. They're only gonna review it on an annual basis. The roads that they have agreed to do, I haven't written them down, but it was a couple of big roads, mostly Valhalla Farms, Providence Ridge, that they were willing to do next year. So anything other than that, we would just need to be prepared to take over basically 100% of what you guys see in front of you from a liability standpoint on state roads other than those two subdivisions.
You can't.
Will they reimburse us if we do it early? So we take it, it's ours, go rid, just go sit and spin around.
Unless y'all want to get David Willis and Todd Johnson involved and see if there's anything that he can do on their end to work out something at a state level. It doesn't sound like we're gonna get anywhere with it.
Early poll, Dyson, if we don't order with the bond. And we don't know what we don't know.
Well, no, we know all the things, it's just gonna cost us more.
I do have First Right out here, David Twood, I'm not sure if you guys remember him, and he, helped us through the financing for Village Hall, so he was there throughout that process and helped handhold. He is here to talk about the tax impact model, it's in your agenda packet, to kind of his role and what they would do as consultants. We can go through and kind of think and choose what we had planned to do initially, but I don't know if y'all are still interested in moving forward. Already knowing that we're accepting a $2 million liability if we do this. So we're already $2 million in the hole if we move forward. That's not even including adding any major projects. So the two,
I think that the state's can. I mean, unless someone can say something different.
What's the reason? We're getting ready to take like a giant liability off of their books for them, and all we're doing is saying, help us out a little bit here. What is their rationale?
the reason that they don't move on this is, I know, I had a conversation with them, I think it was in October, November, and they had concerns about equitable distribution of funds and it appearing to be, to look bad if they were to give one of the highest per capita income municipalities in North Carolina 100% of their funds for 1 year or 50% of their funds.
I would like to know how much money they have spent in Marvin versus Raleigh, Durham, Greensboro, the coast, on expanding their giant roads that nobody drives on.
Well, they're resurfacing the entire, building.
Okay, so they're worried about what it looks like, just because we're the highest per capita income, that doesn't mean we have a budget that matches that. It's just the residents. We're not as a village. It's like,
Well, they're going to come around and say them.
so, I'm not that.
They basically handcuff us to be able to move this forward.
So let me ask you this. What level are we talking?
Division level. So like who represents Union County, different other things.
We need to stop talking to them.
I mean, it just,
I mean, who's the ultimate decision?
somebody's gotta see this at 50,000 feet and say, you know what, this makes sense. Because at the end of the day, if you were asked DOT, you'd like all the municipalities to take over the roads, it would be all for it. And that would get it off of their line item for their budget, which they never get to that anyways, because they can't get the secondary. We're a community that wants to take it off, and you want something done, you do it yourself. We're willing to do that, but if the state is going to say to us as a neighborhood, oh, we can't take your road over until you get it up to a certain standard. All we're doing is asking the same thing. We're just doing it all at once. Correct? Yes. I have a hard time with that from a visual perspective, telling us that we can, whether we get David and call or whatever. It's just,
And where does the station engineer get the politics and where's that fall into that?
We don't.
So the way the money is funneled down is the state tells each division how much they have. So it would be the division that says, all right, we've got 50,000 over here, 100,000 over there. So anything above and beyond that, all of their allocations are data driven, just like ours are. So they would basically look, and they probably are up worst first based off of density. And I don't know that for sure, but I would assume that's how they are. So they probably are, looking at it like Union County has this road that's worst first, whereas Marvin has this one. It's a 70 is not worse than a 39 of a year.
Okay.
So,
That's what Santa said. You said that he's worried about the visual. Where does he even get that? Because he's a division engineer. He's not worried about politics.
So it's like when I call somebody, customer service, and I don't like what they said, I want to talk to your boss. So let's talk to whoever is really in charge of this. And if we need to get Todd and Dave involved, let's do that. Let's set up a meeting. If we do it, if ever involved with all of us. Todd and David are welcome to come, we love their assistance. But what we are trying to do will benefit DOT in the long run.
What, I'll have those conversations, it'll be at the state level, because it'll be something they would have to decide. There's a couple of statutes that they threw at me that they had concern with. I don't have them specifically right here in front of me. Title VI was one of them, and it had to do with that equitable distribution of funds. So it appears to be that Brett Knupp has concerns over the legality of the ability to fund an agreement for a reimbursement based off of the statute.
He's the good news roundabout guy, right? He always brings us all the good news about the roundabout.
Sean Epperson.
No, it's Brett.
Um,
Yeah, let's skip him and move on to somebody else.
again, I'm just trying to think out loud here. This is part of the plan. And if we're just doing it all under one umbrella bond to get it done, be fair to the rest of the residents. We're really struggling with, they only get allocated so much, and we're struggling with this gets an office plate. One year.
So do you-
This could take years and years to get all of our under one.
But, Joe, this is no different than a total sales, you know, right, and because they only allocate, the max you can allocate out to a project for 650 million. So we're like, well, they go, well, that's a $2 billion project. Well, it's just gonna sit around and do nothing and be stale for forever, because they're not gonna change that $650 million number, nor should they. So there's gotta be another avenue on which to do it. For that project, there are other options, but you know, sometimes we don't like them, but there are other options. And it's the same thing here, got to push the state to go. And I think that would be something very reasonable to hand to David and to, yeah,
So do you all, so if you look at your, we can make that happen, the conversations with them. Are you all interested in moving forward with the project if we can't get any traction from DOT to have a reimbursement of what we're going to do? Take it.
That's really what we're looking at, right? There's $2 million worth of stuff that needs to be done, not including roundabouts, not including curb and gutter, not including bike lanes, not including all that stuff. It's $2 million worth of stuff. We thought that we would hopefully get DOT to do about a month and a half.
Yes. So the reason I asked that question, if you look at your agenda, if you read the memo that I have on this item, there's a very long timeline for geo bonds. We would have to go ahead and submit an LGC application, go through all this process, and we're getting to the point of, it's not like we've got to make a decision today, but we're gonna have to make a decision the next month to make the timeline.
So I don't know, for me, I'm interested in moving forward if we can get DOT on board somehow. And we're at the beginning of December, we're not gonna get any answers this month, it's not gonna happen, we all know that, so we're gonna be lucky to get it to the answer in January. And are able
You're saying to get it on the ballot.
So my thought is, if not, we're that, if unless we're making a decision today and say, yes, we're gonna move forward regardless of what DOT does, and keep moving that ball forward on this prong, we're gonna keep moving forward on this prong, and yes, then I think we could, you know, if we decide, yeah, but.
Or we still go after the bond and you know, we're still at 50% on the Marvin, and we take over whatever road we can take over, and
We can take over all of them, we're just gonna take $2 million.
what I'm saying is to not take over and status quo stays the same. Yes, this was always planned, it's gonna be every year or two. Well, for the other ones we won't do.
Well, David's here.
I think we're 2 months behind, but that doesn't fall on us because we could have been ahead of this and been voting on this now. And then because then DOT could have dropped that bomb on us and then we had that in our face. So I think we have to, right, and I think we need to take this year to really put our thumb down on them to get, and then try to get this
We could do
the
it.
following year.
We're not doing the May election, not this May, May 24th. Don't we have a primary?
You could do it at any election.
You can do it, you can do it. Let's just fast forward to this time. This time next year, we should already have the answers from DOT and so to do it. And again, it's not up to us. Our job is to get it packaged and put together to say, do you want to put it on the,
Well, to sell it to the community.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not interested in going forward with a gearbox. With you, because there's no sense in wasting all time and money
Yeah, we're
to do
never-
this without getting some sort of plan together and presenting it to the community.
We're never gonna do that.
part of that, part of that process is, part of that process is you're gonna have.
And you gotta have a plan. And we can't have a plan until we have all of the parameters together and put together a plan.
And
We don't know what the other is gonna do, we don't know how much money we got, but, and we don't know what's all public. And if we put together a package that's gonna cost them $20 million and we have to pay, we have to raise taxes 8 cents to pay that bond. And that's what it looked like on the numbers I was looking at this morning. That's a big chunk of money. They're gonna, you know, I, as a bad taxpayer, wanna know, you know, 8 cents, that's big, that's a big jump from where we are. We're the double paying right now. So
And we get, I've never heard that number. Is there something that we can learn from, if, say it's $20 million, what do we expect it to be to the taxpayers paying off? What, 10 years is required?
So David's here today. He's got a financial impact model that we can pull up and he can plug in some numbers and he can show you how it works.
You guys are okay at least listening to this?
But I think what we need to do now, my opinion, is to target, let's get to this point next year. Right, so,
Well, which is, you know what? You're gonna get more people out anyways to come to the ballots. And they all vote about it.
yeah.
Sure.
So,
Yes.
that was the one we probably read, 66,000, we still haven't read.
So that's my private.
Oh.
These models and stuff, it was, so she put it in there, it was $5 million tax and impact 2.33 cents for the first year, and it went down to 1.7 after the whole thing. Now, so multiply that by 4 at 20 million, and that's just the green. By the way, it's cost of greens. So that's an 8 cent increase for the 10 year.
Or 8 cents in addition to this.
In addition, it's an 8 cent increase to pay that bond. I mean, what we're looking at is,
Listen, the people of Marvin, they all want to drive the Mercedes, but they don't want to pay.
right,
And I listen, I get it. Yeah, I get it, but
yeah, what I'm saying is, you know, this whole thing is a great idea, but when you start putting all the numbers together, do everything we do, talk $300 million. Huge tax impacts for the next 10 years to do it.
we want green roads. We want sidewalk, we want all of this stuff, but it comes out of price, and there's only so, I mean,
Paying so much out of it.
well, again, it's not gonna get in. Price of all this stuff is gonna go down.
No.
So 8 cents, so the 8 cents next year could be 10.
That's picking up some.
And that's just, that doesn't cover anything else, just remits. 20.5 million to do remits right now.
So it sounds to me like we need to prioritize the list of what everyone else says they want. If you want a pavilion over here, farmers market, if you want, then then we're going to put it on the ballot. And you can sign up. They've got to understand what you're signing up for.
So, you're. We're not gonna do the whole package. We're not gonna do $40 million. Because we just are not gonna get that tax. People on the table, so we're gonna have to do it. So we have to prioritize projects, and if we wanna do bond agreements, we say, we're gonna do this, and then the next one will be something else, but I think that realistic, the roads are the biggest, we have to look at bond sections.
If I was on the line, what would be your biggest priority? Same as you, Jay?
Relays.
I mean, I want, I mean, you know, but that's my, I like that project, but reality is our roads are impactful to the public maintenance. So we have to really look at the road package first. And what's that?
It's kind of what one would be.
Yeah, right.
Situation. I mean, listen, we want to not use our roads as much because we can leave our house and we get on a bicycle and we can come down to Heritage District or to the farmer's market or to whatever. So it's a 1A, 1B. But again, we still have to prioritize what we.
But is it more roads or connected roads or both? When you say roads. Priority.
Neighborhood roads, connected roads are state owned and maintained, and we're not really that really much, other than maybe put down.
There's one other thing, we talked about traffic and more, and this brings up what South Carolina wants to do on 521. Did you get?
Yeah.
It's a $150 million project where they want to widen 521. They want to widen what they call Marvin Road here, and what's the other one down next to Andy? They want to widen the South, the North Carolina line so that traffic can get off and come this way. You're looking at me, Joe.
No, I'm,
Alright, sorry, we're good. Ready.
I mean, it's,
So if you look at the tentative GeoBond schedule in your agenda packet, it's like a spreadsheet, looks like this.
We're not gonna follow that. We're
Well, him and I were just having a sidebar conversation. We've got a little bit of time to talk with the DOT. We don't officially have to start taking our action on the public side until May. So we've got a little bit of time, but that doesn't mean we can't, we've got to define what that project scope is between now and May, so we can define the total cost. So he can show you how this tax impact model works. One of the other things to keep in mind is, I don't know if you have a chance to play with this, but we can also stagger the debt. So we won't necessarily do all projects in year one or all projects in year two. We can stagger them down and when to draw them down. I think you can speak a little bit to that, speak a little bit to the timeline of what your involvement will be in this process. We would definitely need them to hold our hand through the LGC approval from the beginning. You have to have the LGC approval before you go to the bond.
Technically, no, but traditionally, yeah.
So if y'all want to turn it over to him and kind of give a little overview and work through the model.
Thanks for having me here. First off, I love the village office. First time I've seen that since.
All right.
Yeah, Bill did a great job. All down there. Really quick, jump in.
For me, our firm, but quickly 30-second bio, First Trend Advisors. We're based in Charlotte. We serve as financial advisor to cities, counties, utility systems, colleges and universities, primarily in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. We are not a bank, we're not a lender. We sit on your side of the table, provide you financial advice. We do a lot of long-term kind of debt and financial planning. We also, when you have a bond issue or debt financing to do, we help you through that process. So I've worked with y'all again last year on that installment financing for Village Hall. I've actually presented, I don't know how many were on council. This is probably back in 18 or 19, on the same topic of potential geo referendum for road improvements. I know this has been a topic of discussion for a while now, so this has come up. But our role in the geo referendum process is really just to take you through it, start to finish, in conjunction with your bond counsel firm. They would be the firm that drafts some of the resolutions and the bond order that y'all ultimately adopt. Historically, y'all use Parker Poe as your bond counsel firm, and so the two firms would take you through that process. That involves some of the preliminary discussions that you have with the local government commission, who's the body that's got to approve all financings, take you through the application process, reviewing the documents, and really looking at the financial impact of any sort of borrowing would have on the tax rate. And so a couple kind of general rules of thumb here. When you're looking at a general obligation bond, the local government commission will let you go 20 years for that debt. That's the maximum amount. You can certainly go shorter if you want to. You can look at potential prepayment options that allow you to maybe issue it for 20 years, but give you the ability to pay it off sooner if you like. But 20 years is that maximum term. And then in terms of the structure, they want to see level principal payments. And so kind of simple math, if you issue $10 million over 20 years, that's $500,000 of principal you're paying down each and every year over that 20-year period. So it's the $500,000 plus the interest. What that means is your first payment, your first year payment is going to be the highest, and then it goes down slightly thereafter as you're paying off that debt. That's unlike if you're doing more of a revenue-based bond, like a water and sewer bond or something like that. They let you do that on a level payment or level debt service basis, like your mortgages, same payment each and every year. The principal you're paying off grows over time as you're paying it down. But with that, again, your first payment's going to be your highest, and that's really what we're focused on in tax impact. What's the most amount you have to pay as you start to pay down your debt, as your value of a penny grows higher, your tax, you could theoretically each year lower your tax rate if you wanted to as that tax impact goes down. The math is pretty simple on a tax impact model for something like this. It is, again, just the amount you want to borrow, the term you want to borrow it over, an estimated interest rate assumption, and then looking at your value of the penny. And so, really simply, if you look at, and I don't know what version, I think, so can you see this on your respective screens, or are you looking at it on this? Okay. Let me. See if this works. Can you see any? Can you see these? Okay. So if you borrowed $5 million and you borrowed that over a 20-year period, right now, I'm sure the following interest rates have been going up throughout the course of the year. About a year ago, if you borrowed 20-year money, it'd be about a 2.5% interest rate. Right now, it's about 4%, a little bit more than 4%. So if y'all are looking at a borrowing sometime in the future, we typically add a little bit of cushion to that to be conservative. And so if you borrow at 4.5% over a different there, I'm assuming that's working. Christine, going off your Excel spreadsheet, did that just change there? Yeah, changed. It looks weird. 4.5%, $5 million over a 20-year period. If your value of a penny around 150,000, that's what's plugged in here, is that 147,000. If I look over, if you'll see, again, $5 million over 20 years is $250,000 per year, plus interest at 4.5%. You'll see your total debt service starts at $475,000 and it goes down incrementally as you're paying down principal each and every year. But $475,000 is what you would owe in the first year. Your value of a penny, $147,000. Your tax impact out of the gate would be about 3.23 cents. And so again, technically you could lower it over time. And then you look at the math again. If you look at $10 million, it's going to be 6.46 cents as your highest impact there. And so, as Christina noted, you can stair step into this when you, if voters approve a general obligation bond, you have 7 years to issue the debt, and that can actually be extended another 3 years if the local government commission gives you an extension. So you have 7 to 10 years to issue all the debt. You don't have to issue it all at once. You can issue it in multiple tranches. Typically, you don't want to do like drips and drabs and issue $1 million one year, $1 million the next year, because you're going to incur costs to issue it each time you do. So you want to have, a sizable tranche each time you do it, but you can certainly do 2 or 3 over the course of that 7-year period, 7 to 10 year period. So each one you issue can be its own 20-year. And so if like you issued, let's use the $5 million scenario now, 2.5 million first, that would pay off for the next 20 years. And then you waited another 3 years, you would issue that for another 20-year period. So your final maturity. So your debt service in this model currently isn't set up to look at tranches, but it's easy to add that in. It would ramp up in year 4, for instance, in that scenario, and then it would fall off in year 20 as that initial tranche paid off. Once you sell the debt, you're locking in the interest rate for that 20-year period. And again, 20 years is the max. Y'all can look at something shorter if you wanted to, but you would lock it in for a 20-year period. Typically, the local government commission likes general obligation bonds for new money projects like this sold in the public market. You always have 2 markets to issue debt. Public market is where you have an offering document where you give all the information to investors about the village, your top taxpayers, employers, income levels, et cetera, your financials. You get the bonds rated by rating agencies and you sell it to an underwriter who then ends up selling it to a variety of different investors. A public market deal. The other option is you sell it directly to a bank. That's what we did with your installment financing last year. You have to bought it. But you can sell it, and so one holder, one lender owns all of your bonds. You don't have to do an offering document. You don't have credit ratings. It's a more simplified process. And typically, LGC likes this done in the public market. That said, if we're looking at smaller sizes, there's a really good argument to be made to just do it directly to a bank, lower upfront cost to do that. And if you do it with the bank, you can get more flexible prepayment provisions. Some banks will give you an anytime prepayment option with no cost. Other banks will say, hey, after 5 years, you can prepay it with no penalty. In the public market, there's typically a 10-year no call or prepayment period. And then in year 10, you can prepay it at any time. So those are all kind of details to be worked out, but you've got the ability to go up to 20 years. You may have some prepayment flexibility before that 10-year mark, depending on which route you go. You can issue it in tranches over time, 7 to 10 years, and you don't have to issue all of it. I know that this was, there's kind of 2 ways to look at this. One, you could say, hey, let's go forward with a referendum. We don't know yet what's going to happen. Are we going to get money from the state? If a referendum passes, you don't have to issue the debt. You don't have to issue all of the debt. You are passing a not to exceed issuance amount. That said, the flip side, if you're going to voters and asking them to approve something, you kind of want to be able to tell them the plan. Here's what we plan to do. Here's the information in order them to approve it. So. What's your realistic number? Okay. So you're paying off 1.25 million per year, 16 cents. And what's your current tax rate? Just 6 cents? Okay. Yeah. Well, no, I think you're gonna be less than 18 cents, but you're still gonna be very close, because if you fast forward after 3 tranches, you're still gonna have 28 million outstanding. So your principal amount's gonna be the same. What's gonna be less is the interest, because you're gonna be paying off some debt. And so that aggregate interest amount will be lower. So it won't be 18 cents, but it'll be pretty close to that. It'll be a little bit less, and but I don't think it would get you all the way down to 10. Yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah, no doubt. No, I mean, and I'll give you not my view, but just looking at the view of the forecast out there from the different banks and or economists out there. So most see, and if we think about long-term rates, because all the focus right now is on both rates, but really the Fed funds rate is a short-term rate, overnight rate, and that really affects the first few years of the yield curve. If we're looking at 10, 15, 20-year rates, that's more kind of domestic, like long-term economic health, like how are things, what's the view there? And so if we look at the forecast of some different banks out there, they see long-term rates actually staying pretty steady to what they are now, maybe slightly increasing over the next quarter or two, and then actually starting to go down a little bit. There's clearly a lot of variables that go into that. If the Fed keeps increasing its short-term rate to save off inflation, but then pushes into a recession, well, then we'll see long-term rates come back down. So it is tough to say. I personally, I don't see us going back to 2.5% rates, long-term rates. I mean, that we were at an incredibly low level of interest rates and money for a pretty extended period. I don't see us going back there, but I also don't see us continuing to increase over time. And so when we do a lot of long-term planning and models, I I don't have any models right now that project an interest rate over 5% for long-term debt, but I'm also not getting super aggressive in projecting rates to go down. And so when we talk about tax impact, I mean, to me, not the worst thing, but you'd rather be conservative, say it's going to be this. It's ultimately going to be whatever it needs to be to pay off the debt. And so we can project out and say it's a 4.5% or 5% interest rate. Tax impact is X. That's what you relay to the public. And then when it comes time to it, if our rates are lower, then obviously you only need to increase your property tax rates to whatever it needs to be to cover that. But better to kind of aim high and then come in below that number. So long-winded answer to say, I don't see rates continuing to go up. See them stabilizing, maybe coming down a little bit. But if y'all issue it in tranches over certain years, for instance, it's kind of like when you invest in your investment portfolio. If you do it over a certain time, you'll hit some highs, you'll hit some lows. And so on average, though, it will be a good interest rate just because it's hard to time the market. Back to where we were. Yeah. Sure. Just to see the sensitivity of it. Yeah. So we're at 16.16. So you went down, a little bit less than a cent. One thing just to mention, I think I heard y'all talk about it, Parks and Rec too, or greenways, I'm sorry, maybe it's all. If you're looking at that versus streets, you may know this, but I think that would be two separate questions on the ballot. So theoretically, you could have one pass, the other one not pass, or both of them. So you may, and this is ultimately a bond council question because there's about how you split them up, but you can combine kind of common things. So if you look at roads and greenways the same, like they're all modes of transportation, then yeah, you can combine those. If there's other more like parks and recreation, I know the counties typically do that, but if you have kind of things that aren't transportation or modes of transportation related, that would be a separate. So, okay, yeah. Right.
So, yeah, okay, so let's say.
We've done a little over 9.2. They didn't do that. They did that again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like basically, he's doing the area design, and consult with DOT to make sure that they're like, okay, yes, if that works, and then that plan, if we would proceed with trying to make it the CRTPO. If he would, yes, that's.
We take over. Here, yeah. So there's something.
CRTPO allows discretionary funding similar to like, it's still similar to how we got the market with grant. Even if it's more, they do have discretionary funding for. State, yes. Yeah, basically the federal government, their federal DOT, as they allocate money to each of the states and the states that administer this funding. So even though like funding from the state.
So if we get a $50 bond, we got to be great. We're taking it over for maybe they're going to grow it. It's terrible.
Please, we know we still be able to apply for that for the similar funding. CRTPO has different.
But it's not like really.
It would be similar to probably like how Martin stuff, where like 60-40. I think the minimum application is 20%. But ultimately, yeah, it would be, well, because right now through the wax on Martin, I mean, it's still with the 20% match. The count is 500,000. But DOT does it's kind of also the same. But it's the treasury DOT.
some. We're gonna pay a lot more. So we can take.
And the other thing too, we was thinking about it. and Currently, unless we get staff, we take and move forward. Project administration background. Now, we're going to get so.
Right, we are gonna have to then we have. What are you looking? 600 for. $700.
It's 1.1, because the
So that's 1.1.
it's 1.1 total. And basically, the way that it's done is the county was the applicant, but the county only has $500,000 in that critical intersection grant. So they weren't going to be a complete 10%, 10%. Like we pay 10%, they pay 10%. Basically, they're giving us 500,000, and then we're will be that 600 some thousand. It showed if you in the yeah, the Powellville tracker did have 1.1 million because we would be the one administering the funds, but we get 500,000 from the county. So then we would only. Yeah.
So we're at 600 there, probably roughly 600-700 over here. But it's similar. It's a relay roundabout, probably the same ball.
I would actually say that one, not an expert on this. I would think that one may end up being cheaper because of us getting the right of way donated.
Plus,
And that-
plus the fact it's already a T intersection where that one is not a T intersection. It's going to require more right of way actually to improve that. This one, right. Getting it donated. Well, that's how much we pay for land acquisition here for this one. And that's a huge chunk of.
And that's kind of the intent through the Brantley development is that if we get the right of way donated, then that means it also then shifts it kind of forces what the design is going to look like. Where then they don't have to take additional right of way from here because we already have this in hand. I mean, if we have to they would have to do a little bit of alignment out on Joe Farr. So like, yeah, there's probably going to need some right of way done, fire from inside and so on. But ultimately, us having that right of way does, I think, help us from a funding, but also kind of what the design is going to look like where it doesn't lead to additional costs.
Help us move forward.
Moving forward and out.
With kind of like getting it done quicker with the line.
Not the way you were talking about, you think like that if you change the federal critical intersection list.
Yeah, the county's in the process, so they did their critical intersection report back in 2019. This one was identified, but it was not one that was identified similar to like the design, the funding analysis of Waxhaw and Marvin, which if you guys recall that 25,000 we got from the county that we prioritized overages for this roundabout. We can also use that 25 to fund a design analysis and, but
wouldn't it be like if it's less money on, wouldn't it be easier to get it done quicker than the expensive one? Because everyone in New York saying something about some threshold. This one way over, but there was a threshold of money.
it depends on how it scores. I think the threat, and I could be wrong. I'd have to go back. The threshold he might be talking about is, like I said, they're 500,000. Is
Yeah,
there?
this was a private threshold. Maybe it was emergency funding or critical intersections, but there was a gap on that.
Yes. Well,
He felt like this was gonna be able to get that intersection made up quicker.
oh yeah. I mean, what it breaks down to is one. Let's say this one gets approved by CRTPO.
And if we have a design, he said.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, but then what council has to think about from a funding standpoint is, okay, we're paying for this one, or paying our portion for this one. Do we have it now, or are we gonna, do some type of budget allocation and stuff to be able to prioritize this one around the same time. Because we,
Done, it's gonna be like 27, 28, right?
but this one, see, we've already missed the funding window or the application window for this one, so we won't be able to submit an application through CRTPO until next year.
Next year, but I mean, and I could be wrong, but I was getting the impression from Bjorn that could be like on the list of like 25.
Well, and it's probably because if we already have the right of way, if we already have the right of way and stuff, you think about like this one, you know, well, if we already have the right of way and design and stuff, there's not much more than DOT has to do other than environmental analysis, utility relocation, and the actual construction part. They don't have to go and negotiate with property owners on their land value right away. And so yeah, in theory, it could happen. Even though we might apply next year, it could in theory, but it also then depends on DOT, their funding schedule,
Okay, so,
project load.
all right, David, we'll bring you back in the conversation. So let's say we go with, what do we have up there now, 15 million? I think so. So let's say that we go with the 15 million. We have now obviously considered it. We don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot of the DOT. So some of that cost are connector roads within Marvin that we may not necessarily want to take over immediately. So we'll figure out how much those cost, and then how much maybe some of the roundabout cost, and not issue that part of it right away.
Yeah, you don't have to, again, what the council's gonna adopt the bond orders and not to exceed, so you can say, we will not issue more than $15 million. And then you could not issue any of it. You could issue 50 million, 10 million, any amount. Now, once you go through the process and actually issue the debt, you've got to pay it. Let's say you go ahead and issue $15 million and then you get money in from the state. You could, assuming there's, depending on the language of the money you get in the state, you could use that money to make your next couple of payments and pay off some of your bonds that way. But you're not obligated to repay it until you actually issue it. You always issue less than installments.
So if I issue, let's say I want to issue 5 million, year one. Obviously that tax impact is going to look different.
It's going to start out at a third of that, 3 cents.
In year 2, 3, I want to issue another 5 million. So then it would obviously go up, but then it would, by year 18, it would go, it would have gone.
Yeah, you're going to see it go, and sorry, another iteration of this, I can add a ability to put some functions on there, but you're going to see it go.
Get around about 7 If DOT, is DOT even gonna, let's just say we're like, for DOT, I mean, sorry, DOT, but really. But let's just say we're gonna just do it, because they're not gonna help us. And will they let us take over these connector roads?
They will, if we take over the entire portion, is what they've told me today. They've not committed any way. Anyway, they basically just said they wouldn't be interested in maintaining half or 1/3 of a roundabout.
Maintain a third of a roundabout.
So
And if I want all of Newtown Road, I can take it over from the state line to.
Depends on this.
yeah, unless someone else gets hold of it and says no, because we have ownership and the connectivity from here to 16.
But I need to figure out who's gonna tell me no.
I asked Brett earlier who we talked to about him, so they'll let us know. It'll be someone at the state level.
I have a question. This goes about communication to the Marvin, to all the people. Are we gonna tell them what the DOT has told us? That because we make too much money, so we don't get any help. I'm liberal. Don't be here all often.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, we put up a change. Ultimately, that's what the answer is. Yes, I absolutely think.
But I think the people that we have to do that.
I don't think we need to do it yet.
Okay.
That's my.
The way they started was they had concerns of equitable distribution of the funds.
But the part of it is because of how much money that we have here, or the number of high income people.
I mean, essentially, yeah, that's what they said. They have not written that down. It's been a conversation that we've had on the phone. I didn't hear the beginner. Are you asking a question? I can you start over?
I said, so
I said,
we have 50% and we get much more
50%,
of. we get how much more?
about 140 a year.
So we got. How much more is in those?
It's not much. Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but it's 75% based off of the population, 25% based off of mileage. So it's not going to go up much.
so we might get to 175, maybe.
Say that
We
again.
might get to 175.
That might be a stretch, but possibly.
So Joseph, you're asking, trying to get to is, okay, so we buy new walls, right? We spent this one now. How are we gonna maintain? Are we gonna have enough budget out of them to be able to maintain them? Or are we going to have to add any or two tasks
Which is what.
forever to be able to maintain?
It's a moving target. I highly doubt that 100% of Powell bill would cover all of the roads, but I will say that the useful life of a road is around 20 years. So you just have to look at it and see how much.
Just gonna look down and see what these maintenance costs are looking at. And we're gonna have to look at this because if we say we go and we do this, raise for 20 years, it's for tax burden, 6.5 cents. Okay, so that's double our tax. We won't have to add 1 or 2 cents for them to be able to maintain all of the year, just getting ready to.
Well, I asked you last week, can we build in a cushion of that 15 million and use $1 million of it for maintenance?
It goes away, it's an end, it's finite. So maintenance is not finite, it's perpetual. So if we're gonna do this, we need to know what we're having to pay on the back end forever to maintain what we built. Because that's going to be hard.
Percentage formula, I guess. Is what we do.
I honestly don't know how to answer that question because it's all going to be depend on what the prescription that's needed is, and we won't know that after the road fails. So as long as we're doing what we can to preserve the road, doing the crack sealing and the fog sealing as that comes about, it will extend that useful life. So
So we're spending 200 a year.
every other year,
Every other year. 100,000, right down, I mean.
every other year.
So I'm saying 1,000 a year, basically. Yes. Okay, so $250,000 a year is what we need. Just what we're gonna have to incur for maintenance. So if Powell doesn't look at half of it, we have to cover the rest of it. So it's just.
That would be a good question for AMT to make one.
Yeah, you say that we have to have a 2-cent increase to be able to maintain everything that we're creating.
Mine was in 29, and I feel like my roads were something about.
And that was a guess. That was a guess based off of discussions that took place between AMT and DOT before my time, right when I started like 5 years ago.
What we're seeing is that yes, we're seeing over the numbers for 2 years, that's taking over those numbers. It's not. So one year or the other, we're gonna have to raise taxes because it would be more than what we have now.
Or you could extend the vehicle tax. I mean, you'll have the sunset of the vehicle tax. You could do that.
But that only will cover the maintenance right now. That doesn't cover the roundabouts. We're having to pull one to be able to afford to our matches. That doesn't cover. So the vehicle tax will only pay for what we're maintaining right now, not what we're taking on. The other capital.
It's like, it's $30.
Well, this, what I'm saying is realistically, in order to do this, we're going to have to raise the tax rate above.
Well,
And that's, gonna be something for everybody's.
That's what staff has done.
So we're looking at, wow. Looking at a passing tax rate. Of
2.5 staying constant. The other dropping off.
This doesn't impact it materially, but with the principal structure, let's say in you rate 6.46 to cover that first payment. You don't need all 6.46 cents of that going forward because your total payment is going to go down. So you can you can keep that 6.46 in place for the whole time as your value of the penny goes and as your debt service is going down. You can kind of carve out some of that to help mitigate what you need for maintenance going forward. So again, it's not going to equal 200,000 a year, but you start to get some, certainly, yeah, some reserve to build up, some relief. If you can get some, yeah, which.
We're talking about all this stuff. If we get neighborhoods to annex in, our 147 number goes up and our stuff is worth more.
But it also, our maintenance is business.
Not all of them.
To answer a question that came up, and you asked us initially about the stagger, it's just hard code this for now, so there was a year now. You did all 50 million at one time on that, I went back to 4.5%. Your taxing back out of the gate, your highest would be 9.69 cents. You did 10 million out of the gate and then 5 million 3 years later. Your initial tax impact would be 6.46 cents. And then in the fourth year, you'd issue the debt in the third year, you start paying in the fourth year, it's going to go up to 9.23. So it's less than if you did it all at once because you've been paying down some of that debt over time. And so it helps a little. Well, I just hard coded that first year to show you.
Okay, so it doesn't.
I haven't carried it. Yeah, it would go from 9.23 to like 9 to 8.8.
That's what David would do, though. We actually are not in an agreement with him right now, but once we enter an agreement with him, he would kind of do this a little bit more
Yeah,
formalized.
just send Christine like a generic tax.
It would be a lot more precise, and, year 1, you would do this, you would borrow this, year 13, you would do this.
So we can tailor tax rate to that extent, right? So you said they cut dry from the beginning. If you're under 10 up front, it's going to be 6.5% rate cut. And in 3 years, we're having to go another 3 cents to cover the extra. So we don't have to stomach it all around. The public doesn't have to pay. They're aware of in 3 years they're going to pay more. But right now they don't.
And to point out annexation of the general road, this is where, let's say that 147 is now 165. So that really helps now. Since you advertised a 3 cent increase and voters said, okay, I'm good with that, or an additional 3 cents, you still could do that and then use some of that for your maintenance. And so it's kind of, you can play that out and see if you want to.
That's what I'm saying. Like that,
But the thing is that what it's brings up a good point is that it totally changed that number with respect to annexation. And in 3 years, we can go down, all of those houses will be paid. So that's a big.
Hunter, what was that number? You and I were looking at the numbers. We looked at Broadmoor, all 3 business neighborhoods, the new one on Marvin Road. What were we talking about, like, the value of the company?
I'd have to go look at the Excel. It should be 120. You'd be roughly adding in 150 to 180 homes, probably estimated value of You can say 500,000 to be safe, but yes, I think it's gonna be more than that, because our numbers are not, I think, 1 million.
Let's just say $1,000,000, because even these over here, they're starting like 800.
Yeah.
These are starting at like 850 to 9.
I want to, like I said, I'll double check the Excel, but I want to think it was anywhere from like 150, 300,000 property tax from those.
So there you go. So that right there, that is gonna be before we pull that next in 3 years. When we pull out in revenue in 3 years. So that almost set.
Yeah, I mean, this just really gets to what assumptions y'all want to make going forward initially. Obviously, most conservative, they talk about interest rate higher interest rate in the current market. Assume you don't grow at all. That's the most conservative. But you may say that's just not realistic. You're going to grow. So let's build in some of that when you're talking about the information you're putting out in the public to voters that it's anticipate 6.5 cents and 2 cents, or again, it just gets to a comfort level of what assumption.
One of the other things, he would build that into this model that he's gonna do, assuming we enter an agreement with him, he would build that in. He would also look at any debt level payments that we have now, i.e. the village hall. And we could take some of that funding that we are allocating now towards other sources, and he could do that to the model as well.
Yeah, your village hall payments are the same level principal, so you're getting a little bit of relief each year now. That, I think we borrowed $1.2 million or so, so it's not huge dollars, but sure, you can absolutely build that in unless, again, you would kind of to carve that out into other operational type.
And one of the other things too is the concept of the vehicle tax was to fund some of the greenways. So you can also put that assumption in, and that continues, and you can see how that kind of rolls out with the impact as well.
I can figure out runs because you know drugs come, so we know that revenue is going to be in that 3-year period. That 6.5 cent tax hike, well, it was the 8. Because we're gonna have to raise the rate to maintain it. But 8.5 cents is a lot easier to swallow.
A couple, what probably leads to maybe trying this out as well would be you have to have, there's a tax law that says you have to have a reasonable expectation you're going to spend it 85% of it within 3 years. And so if you went and borrowed the full 15 million, but you know you can't do it all in 3 years, you wouldn't be able to do that on a tax exempt basis or interest rate. So you wouldn't be able to do that. So you got to, and then plus the LGC would say, if you went and said, I want to do all 15 million, they would say, well, you have like bids for all of this, or are you just kind of guessing? It's not as pressing with streets. They can get a little bit more flexible with street improvements because we're simplifying this, but basically it's not like you're building a new village hall. You got to make sure you have all the money to finish it. I assume you can, once you run out of money, you can stop it. Right? And so it's not as crucial to have every project bid out. They want to make sure you've got it. Critical mass of projects kind of, cost, not just issuing debt before you know have figures.
Well, when you do ways, and that's the biggest chunk of it, you know, it's cost. That's because we have linear, we have linear cost for.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
And, but to your point, if we run out of money, we stop with the prayer.
Right.
So,
We got.
Well, is there something on here on our schedule when we get the money to help us have to do those?
Yeah, we'd have to hire someone.
Like education consultant for strategy.
So the next steps that we would have is, like we had mentioned before, getting with those state representatives, whoever they are on the state level, to see if we can make a decision from DOT to get some type of perpetual reimbursement agreement done. Assuming we can do that, we'll change the numbers that he puts into the model. Assuming we can't do it, it changes those numbers too. So either way, if we want to move forward with this, we need to start defining what actual improvements we want to add to any of the roads, meaning do we want sidewalks, we want curb and gutter, or do we just want to focus on the DOT roads as they are today and then add in the greenways? What else are y'all thinking about adding on to the roads? Anything?
I mean, I feel like if I was gonna do everything, it'd be like, look like $30 million, and that's not feasible. So,
Well, I looked at the improvement schedule. Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought it was really cheap. If we were to have like, that would be the only thing that I would consider as our main thoroughfares. That's all. So, yeah. On main roads are very good. I think, I want to say it's somewhere around 60. Like, if I read that correctly.
The number,
It's very low. Sidewalks were way
so that number does not include any of the right-of-way acquisition. So that would be in addition to.
a lot of them have right of way being put on them. And what I can work with, in most cases, except for right here at. Right on this. 98% of them have right of way. So there shouldn't be any acquisition.
We can ask AMT those questions too.
But that, for me, I think that's the only thing that I would want to add. We want to add. A lot of extra maintenance. Difference in the cost between a sidewalk and a bike maintenance.
one from Harvard Road, 800,000, versus the bike lane at 20,000.
On both sides.
Oh, and the sidewalk is per each side.
Yeah. Huge difference in cost. And to be honest with you, I don't see any reason for it, because we're running freeway, which is already baked into this cost of living. So I think bike lanes make sense. I'm looking for repairs for safety for public, because license.
You want it on just Waxaw, Marvin, Newtown?
The main thoroughfare, so there will be Marvin Road, Marvin School Road, Waxaw, Marvin Road.
Hang on one second, I need it. Marvin School,
Right? Is that it?
okay. Waxaw, Marvin, I'm sorry. Waxaw, Marvin, Marvin School.
Marvin.
Those are the main thoroughfares. Bicycles, I mean, the rest of them are on apron, so there's really no need for them.
Okay.
But I want to say it's something. Who said that they're on. Just doing the numbers. I don't feel like that's a huge impact.
And then on the Greenway Master Plan, did you guys decide on 100% of what's listed there that's not done already? So 10 million of the Greenway.
But, there again, some of it's gonna be paid for by other sources, some of it's already been done, so it's like, we're looking down to 13 million maybe. And if we do 10 of that, we've got all.
We can still get like land.
With 10 million, we've got 90% of everything done, so yeah, all of our stuff. Truthfully, I don't see that getting done in time in the next years, just because of trying to get right away acquisition. That's a huge part of the So I think to need to get everything that we can physically actually do.
Do we still have on our or it's somewhere up there, our portion of what the property for widening is going to be?
That seemed to be one of the questions.
I mean, I know, but like, we so the lighting. Is the money for them? Our portion of for lighting. We took them together. What we
Yeah, and I asked them this question a couple months ago. but it was like 2030.
Start. That's why there's that. So we're 5 years out from having to.
How much do we have for that?
Well, I'd asked Sean back in September these questions, and he said, we'll keep you updated as we get more accurate costs. The project will end up adhering to our new complete streets policy, so that means, there could be no betterment cost for the proposed pedestrian accommodations. So basically, it potentially means that they would pay for it. We haven't signed any agreements at all. I am not 100% sure, but I did ask him. We couldn't find any agreements. You remember when we were looking for that agreement?
I mean, I, where we did something, that was like the first. Yeah.
Because they were ready to start. These are, you know, money, we're going to get started next year. So, you know, yeah.
Christine, that may have been one of the very first things that like, I did.
It's, so I sent an email on September 14th, Sean, we had earmarked approximately $150,000 in funding needed for 26-27 for Providence widening, but we could not find an agreement for this. Do you have any clue what the amount might be? He says, I assume this is related to the betterment cost for the bike and pedestrian facilities needed for this project. Construction date of 27. I would anticipate any betterment cost for the project being due around fiscal year 30 when the project is complete. I would assume that the estimated cost provided 3+ years ago are no longer accurate.
Okay, really? I'm shocked.
As we move on for the project, it can be updated basically.
Okay, so,
We need a number.
well, I would say,
50, I guess, is what we did work.
Have we signed anything? I swear.
We couldn't find anything. We looked for it. We couldn't find anything.
I would say, yeah, well, yeah, at least 50%. I mean, realistically, because of the time frame, I would say at least that, just for planning purposes. Well, now. We should get 9 years or 8 years. So we start putting little savings away for the next 8 years, and everybody else does, and that building.
In your agenda packets, you see the timeline. One of the things in the December special meeting, we would look at the Palmo maps and select the streets and the added amenities. So what I'm hearing from you all is you want to take over all DOT streets, add the bike lanes on the main thoroughfares, but we would try to structure the DOT streets to be taken over as we anticipate those roundabouts being completed.
But I still want DOT to come up or do some sort of improvement before we pull the trigger. Like, we need to have those conversations.
We definitely arrange those conversations to take place, but in order to get the project continuing to roll, if y'all want to go through this or not, we probably should make a decision, not today, but sooner than later, if we're willing to take over that or not, and just leave it at that.
Maybe how much? And ultimately, how much you would actually be. So, I think that you would have 15 or half or 13.5.
I say no 15.
But I know, but I mean, so if we can get you to do it great, then.
Right, but we're not going to get all. That's what you know, if you get into here, you're free. And you find that you only need. No, we're going to need 10. Whatever.
We have to take all of it. If we say 15 and we find we only need, well, I guess we find money.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
They don't have to stop too.
Yeah, that's just the maximum amount which you approve.
So I guess my question to you all is DOT doing some type of reimbursement, a make or break deal for this?
I would like to hear what they have to say. I mean, I don't wanna say yes and no.
I don't know Christina. I mean, I'm with everybody else. I want to hear what DOT has to say at a higher level, and I don't know that that's a make or break. But I don't want to say it's ignorant.
Okay, so the reason I asked that, the next thing on the agenda is to enter the contract with First Tryon for the tax analysis portion of this whole process. So if it is a make or break, then we probably should go to that step next before we pursue any other activity or spend a lot of staff resources and spending time doing this. So the next thing on the agenda is to enter the contract with First Tryon for the tax analysis.
Yeah, is that what you're saying?
I didn't hear, I couldn't hear Joe.
We don't want to do this if we're not, wait until we have a conversation.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Yes.
That's right.
Okay.
So that don't need to be. Okay. I don't need to do this, we're not gonna do it. But
Again, you need the day, but then people say no, people say no.
Say yes, but what do you?
But, and that's it. It's not, no. I think
we can get $5 million and get the $2 million worth of road. And do $3 million worth of, what is that look like? Can we look at that? See what that looks like?
One of the other things, while he's pulling that up, is just because the road's what started on this, you could still do the GO bonds for the trails. So, I mean, if we get to the point where DOT says no,
What we're doing is get the roads done, get them off the books, get everybody in Marvin on the same level plane.
Bob, I'm assuming you agree with that, your priority would be roads. I said your priority, at the end of the day, with that settles, your priority one would be finish the roads of Marvin that are stay on. Okay. Just get consensus.
I think that's right, but I think that, let's do 5 million. Yeah, I mean, okay, so. $1 million for $3 million for anyway.
Well, that's if we can do it.
No, $2 million for the road, that's the says nothing. $2 million for the road, $3 million worth of freeway. That's the DOT. $2 million, Christina, is this not right? Getting everything that's left at $2 million, including connector roads?
it's all the DOT roads that he studied.
It was $1.5 million.
I think there's somewhere between, no, I don't think. But there's a big.
Says that.
I'm not talking about that. So this is $5. So $2.5 million for I'm just saying that's not, maybe once we change, let's change our value to 1 cent. How much did Hunter say would go up?
Private roads as well.
Right, that's big, but what did Hunter say?
So 110 is the estimated increase, but I wouldn't put that in until not next year, but the following year. So do 157, just,
It's $10,000.
I'm sorry, 257.
Yeah, 7, year 3.
I mean,
That's right. Triple G.
so do 8 million.
Keep in mind,
issue, if you, let's say you held a referendum next November, you wouldn't issue that debt until 2024. And so we really wouldn't start until fiscal 25, so that may be when your value penny may already be bigger.
But David, keep in mind that that's assuming that 100% of
And they
that
said they only got 30% of it, so.
got to the increased operational costs. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
So just keep in mind that if we do that, that's assuming that we have no increase in operational costs, meaning that we have to hire no additional staff or the additional roads or additional police officers.
This addition.
Yes. So I would, when he does the assumptions,
Value of 1 cent. Is our value of 1 cent 147?
today it is, yes.
So we're using all of that to pay this off.
No. You don't,
Yeah,
I'm saying-
if you have, your value of 1 penny is 147,000, you should probably tax by 5.17 cents. You're using all of that 5.17 cents to make your penny.
but what I'm saying is when you put in that value of a penny of
Right.
110, you're taking that $110,000 I'm now giving you to pay for debt service.
That's right. You would have that 110,000 on your other 6 cents too, that could go for whatever. you want.
But let's just hypothetically say, let's say we bring in $110,000 next year. But we also have to hire 2 more people that cost $100,000. Then essentially, I'm only able to give you $10,000 to pay in your model, is what I'm saying.
But you've got 6 cents at that extra 110,000, so you got 660.
Gotcha, okay. Then yeah.
So it's fine.
This is.
Add on.
What?
This is to figure out what our tax impact is. We're not using 147. We're using.
Okay, I gotcha.
Tax
Okay.
impact.
All right.
So really, yeah, if you want to really pay 237. And they don't let us hurt that much. And then if we annex in anybody else, these are just with these neighborhoods that we're talking about. But if you start talking about taking over some of these connector roads and improving them, I mean, those are selling 24. These neighborhoods, getting big trucks off the road, I mean.
Well, so just the change long, is that?
I'd have to ask him.
We're,
But it's.
yeah, tell us come back here with that information.
I mean, realistically, we're planning for this, if we're gonna start gaining a lot of revenue by year 1 above this bond, then we're looking at a whole different tax impact, like additional tax. This one. Penny box.
We have more pennies.
That, it keeps going down. I went down to less than 3 cents.
Well, we have I'm on leave. 45. I have leave at office.
Sorry, Wayne, you gotta say hey.
We got about 25 more hypotheticals.
You're taking it down.
No, this is not really something.
I mean, way more power.
Okay, so
105, he said. He said 105.
Go up another 105, so it's
That's assuming at every single property in Jimmy's in it.
All right,
252,000.
350.
We left.
I think we're the 147, it goes up another 105.
No, but
Yeah.
257, we're planning on, that's still the.
So you're looking at 359.
It actually didn't go down that much, almost a penny.
Yeah.
2 cents. Okay, so what's the math on that? If tax rate goes up 2 cents. You're at $600 million of your meter. 800 a year, in $1,400. For all those.
That's all you're talking about all year. Or somebody who install it.
$0.18. I have a problem with it, so. I don't have a problem selling 2 cents, or even 4 cents for that. We decided to go.
Just got all the hypotheticals that got you to that number. And make sure that
Spend it.
We're
That's it.
still only at
Works
3 cents.
on that. Right. Figure that out.
What's the,
We don't have a yield.
what we know is
Project ourselves to where we're sitting at. What's the-
Or what's included, this was a recent legislative change, is that you've got to put in there your projected tax impact and your assumptions you use to generate that, and so that's interest rate and obviously value in this case, so, you just got to note your assumptions that you put in there. It's in one of the, things that you'll adopt.
These guys.
but without,
Got kind of 102 out there, you're still at 257. I mean, that's still way more powerful.
still 3 cents instead of 2 cents.
So we know that's something you know.
Yeah, 2.9, so it's 3 cents. So,
That's big bills.
yeah.
That's what's on the books. And that feels pretty, that feels
That's
way more powerful.
So 3 cents, that's not bad, that's.
That's being done.
So. If we back to. Still like somewhere around 4%, 10, and then up to. Really not. You get hit at this point, factoring in.
Is that? You got to compare. Same sense of bond.
If you go, so North Carolina, that's not tied to this bond. You would increase it because of the bond, but theoretically, in 20 years, you're done with your payment. Or in year 2, you may not need all 2.96 cents, but then automatically go down. It only goes down if y'all change your tax rate. So 20 years, you pay it off. It doesn't automatically go away. It stays and you don't have to prorate.
You also got your commercial property that's being built.
You know, throw another variable in there. But we've been looking at 20 years, so you can pay it off more quickly if you wanted to. Comes with a higher tax impact, but it's only on for 10 to 15 years too. Just another variable.
Yeah, we did that for a really long, for CDL, that was for it, so. I'm gonna make a motion to excuse Wayne at 12:38.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Wayne.
So we take.
Thank you, Bob.
So we could do, say we just did. We're collecting revenue, we're paying 2.96 on another each year to start gaining. If the bank allows, maybe on the mortgage payment, then difference bank pays it off.
If you went with a bank placed option, you could negotiate, we could negotiate that up front and say, hey, we want the ability, some banks will only let you prepay in full, others will let you prepay in full or in. Yeah, it's all.
Necessarily pay it.
You could bank it, you could set it aside.
Pay it off like a year earlier, and no.
Say we're about to take
Yeah, there's no bright line. I would tell you if you're looking at something less than 10 million, a bank-placed option would be, to me, the most cost-effective for y'all to do, the easiest for you to do. If you're getting up to 25 million, I think that's a public market transaction. But a lot of it depends on what the interest rate environment is. Those are two different markets. Yes, the rates tend to move in tandem, but a lot of times, this year, for instance, the public market was in more volatile and more disarray. The bank-placed market, yes, certain banks maybe weren't participating or their rates were higher, but you could find a bank that, you know, their rates were lower. And so we did a lot of deals that traditionally would have been public market. We ended up with the bank-placed deals this year because it was just a little bit more stable environment. So I caveat that to say it kind of depends on when you're ready to issue what each market looks like. But for 8 million, I would say I would advocate on your behalf to just do a bank-placed deal.
The cost of issuance difference.
It's notable. If you were going to do a bank-placed GO, you know, your main cost, your bond counsel firm, us if you use us as your financial advisor. Sometimes the lender, the bank, has their own counsel review the documents, and then that's it. Actually, those three things. There's not an LGC application fee for a GO bond. And so for that, you know, I'd say you're looking at a bank-placed deal, maybe $75,000 kind of all in. If you're doing a public market deal, it's at least $125,000, if not more. The reason being, our fees higher because there's more work to do. Same with bond counsel, and then you have to get bonds rated. The rating agencies charge a fee based on the size of the deal. So I would say you're at least at $125,000. And so, yes, it's only $50,000 on 8 million, but normally when y'all are ready to do the actual thing, and we just run them both side by side. Here's what your interest rate would be in the public market. Here's what your fees would be. Here's your all-in cost. Same drill on the bank place. Here's your estimated interest rate. Here are the fees. And so you bake everything in, so it's an apples to apples comparison. Yeah, I think again that's something I would look at. We do a $100 million bank place deals. We've also done $5 million public market deals. So you can really go either way. I think since it's a GO bond, having a conversation with LGC first, and you got to do that before you officially start the approval process anyway. And then I think we just run the math at the time. Maybe one market's just noticeably better than the other two. Steer.
Proceeding with our timeline, and that's wanting to talk to DOT. Would it make a lot of difference to you, budget-wise, if we try to push it through to 23 and get it on that ballot? Or with like our red numbers that we have it there, and how much, or are we okay to really? I mean, listen, I don't want to push. I don't want to go too fast for this. Like, but I want to go fast enough that if we need to do it in 23, we can. But if we can slow it down a little bit and make sure that we're all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, are you okay? And we'll have a lot more of these assumptions to be concrete.
So from a budgetary standpoint, it's a hard question to answer. I do know that if worst case scenario, what we do is we push back some bog seal preventive maintenance another year, if we have to do that. From the standpoint of major projects that are coming down the line, we're fine financially next year. So there's not like a massive push to get this done to pay for any projects that are coming down the line next year, if that's what your question is. From a timeline standpoint, it would make more sense to push it off to 23 or 24 if we're going to have the conversation with DOT, and really the decision's going to lie in the crux of that conversation, because you and I both know that it takes 2 or 3 months to get with DOT and get stuff planned, and this is going to be something that's done at a state level, so it could require some type of local bill or some type of legislative action that won't take place until next spring. Wow.
General whenever you want to hold your referendum back up 6 months when you need to officially start your actions. And so if it's in November, you need to officially start your actions typically around May. Allow time for those, because y'all take 3, council does 3 actions and then you send your information to the county board of elections. They start their process.
But when he says, I just want to make sure that's where you already have the
Yes.
numbers established, the project, it's good.
That's the official stuff. You gotta have, you have to have your plan ready before we start that official.
But I mean, that's what something that like, we need to do, like.
Well, we gotta be careful because we've got.
No, I know.
So we just have to make sure that we have everything fluid, it's concrete, and we've got it, there's no public.
Oh, no, I know.
Stuff.
That's why that's why I'm asking the question. Yeah. Cause we're gonna have to push this, like, it's gonna be a major push, it's gonna be like, yeah, okay, all right. So we're good. Are you good with us waiting for?
I'm good, and I'll give you this, in case I'm not here, consider a future one. So we have a master services agreement with the village that we put in place at least a year ago, about more reporting software for Village Hall. And so the way that works, it's very high level, which we serve as your financial advisor, we provide you advice, but then we issue a work order for specific assignments. We have a work order for the installment financing for this building. And so what would be proposed would be another work order to help you approve the tax impact analysis, the referendum process itself. The large majority of the time we charge flat fees for all of our financings. It's a flat fee. It's paid typically out of bond money at closing. And it's a flat fee that we quote you at the start of the financing. But for this type of preliminary work, we propose just an hourly fee. And so, again, that's one of those things where you pass it or approve it, and you don't use this, but if you start to use this in here or there, we would just keep a track of our time. So it's not a.
Is it your agenda? Yes.
And so that's just, again, if it runs hot and cold and the topic comes up on a meeting and you want us to put them all together on numbers, we just track our time and we'll review documents on your behalf or the other talk, see we do that way. But once then that process is over, which would be, I think typically our process is done by August. Once you're done with all your approvals, it's in the hand of voters. Then if it passes, and you want to go ahead and issue, then we would have a separate work order and say, here's our proposed flat fee. It would depend on, as I mentioned, if you go back to the separate.
All that would come out of.
Yes, the financing, yeah, with the hourly work,
Probably not,
that
but the flat fee.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Super helpful.
Great. That's happy to.
Yeah, much appreciated.
Yeah.
All right, so that's all we have. All right, I need a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion.
All right, bye, Barbarino. You did a good job today, pal. Bye. Yeah. The value of our